when we were in school, I can only speak for myself. When I was in school, we were taught that socialism and communism were essentially interchangeable terms. Both
Yeah.
of them, but the only difference was that socialism meant everybody had exactly equal everything, and communism meant everybody had exactly equal everything, but there was one dictator. That's literally what I was taught in
Yeah.
high school, in
Yeah.
AP government in high school.
AP, yeah.
AP government in high school. Socialism is everybody has equal everything. Everybody gives all their money back to taxes so that they all have the equal shit.
Yeah.
And then communism is exactly the same thing, except you're in tattooing and there's a dictator.
Yeah.
It's the Casey and Zoe thing.
Hey.
What's up, everybody? We're back.
Back in action.
Back in action, Jackson.
We switched seats.
I'm a little sleepy today.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I'm just gonna lean into it and get even sillier.
Okay.
I'm just gonna be a silly Billy.
A silly Billy, he says.
Because we were gonna talk a bit today. Like, we didn't have a big plan for Clown College.
Not really.
But we were thinking we've had a number of discussions lately in our private life with people about like our beliefs and socialism v capitalism and all this stuff, and you know, we've got some new followers and some new regulars, and so we thought it might be good to reiterate and reaffirm what we believe. Something we get a lot from people, liberals and conservatives, is this question of, well, how can you be opposed to capitalism, but also here you are doing a stream where you make money and you want to make money from your stream? And this seems to speak to that a lot of people think that the definition of capitalism is when there is money. Just like there's money, oh, it's capitalism now, which is not strictly correct. Generally, money, it means it's a market system. So you can have a number of systems with economic systems with money that are not capitalism. And the most the primary defining trait of capitalism as an economic system is that capital controls the means of production. Now, when you say something like that, then there are more questions of, well, what is capital? What are the means of production? You know, I think a lot of people hear capital and think like it just means money. Mm-hmm. You know, they think like if you hand a $10 bill to a homeless person, now they have $10 of capital. No, that's not really what capital refers to, at least in the economic theory sense. Let's look up the definition, the dictionary definition.
Let's see.
Simple definition of capital?
This one?
No, Dan, people ask, what is a simple definition of capital?
Accumulated assets as money invested or available for investment.
Yes, and so very important bit there, available for investment. So if you...
Not money used to buy food and supplies for being alive.
If you're the average American or average person on earth, really, and you go work a minimum wage job, and you get a paycheck every couple of weeks, that's not really capital, because generally speaking, in the U.S., for example, 70-ish% of people live paycheck to paycheck. So yes, you receive money, but it's kind of like all the money you make is basically earmarked for bills, rent, food, all these things you need. So like one could make the argument of like, well, you could take $10 and you could buy, you could buy 10 cheap, pies and then go sell them slice by slice for like $2 a slice. And then you could make $25 profit. And then you could take that $25 and buy more pies and sell more slices. It's like, yes, there are ways in a capitalist system to spin money into more money if you kind of take that hustler approach. But the issue is, if you're going to go invest that money in pies to try to start your little mini pie business, then you have no money to feed yourself. And the fact is, after just a day or two of not eating, you're not going to be very good at running a small business. So for the most part, the money people make, especially in America, it has to be spent within a couple weeks of when you get it. That's how people live paycheck to paycheck, because all their money is getting spent. So when we say, when we like criticize billionaires and the hyper wealthy, we're not saying that money is intrinsically bad. Though I do think we both believe that in a distant future, we should get beyond money eventually, or at least beyond our current idea of money. But in terms of the more near future, we endeavor to balance our pragmatism with optimism and vision. And if you're asking us about pure policy proposals, for like what should the U.S. government do right now? What's the most important? We've always said healthcare for all and college for all. Mm-hmm. Those are the two most important policy proposals. And though we do promote socialism, we also feel that if we just put in those policies of medical care for everyone and college for everyone, that might fix most social inequity, And at the very least, it would give far more credence to popular American capitalist arguments of meritocracy. This idea that the way people make it in America is merit, which the facts just don't seem to bear out. The thing that seems to make people the most successful as a trait. And I guess it depends on how you define merit, right? Because, I think something that makes people succeed or excel in capitalism is shamelessness, ruthlessness, a lack of empathetic concern for your fellow humans. Now, from a certain perspective, value system, you could call that merit. We would not.
No.
And so, if we had medical care for all and college for all, then, if someone was struggling, you could say hey, well, you can go get a degree anytime you want, there's free college, oh, you broke your leg, well, you can just go down to the hospital and get it cast up and fixed, and it's great, So those are the big if you're talking about policy proposals, that's what we think. And then if you're talking about the future of humanity, we have all kinds of ideas and suggestions and thought experiments. And pragmatically speaking, we think the next two big steps are healthcare for all and college for all. And then we think economically it would be great to move over to a system of market socialism, where workers control the means of production, or to be more specific, where basically everything would be a worker co-op and democratically controlled by workers. They could choose what they think is the best way for the company to be run, the company that they are contributing all the labor to, which seems like the most ethically defensible thing.
Seems fair.
Yeah. And just we think all basic human needs should be decommodified. Food, water, housing, medical care, school. And another criticism we get a lot is this thing of well, what about human nature? Very popular argument among conservatives and liberals, a very popular pro-capitalist argument. It's what about human nature? And people are competitive and
dog-eat-dog world.
Yeah, and self-interested. And first of all, under a market socialist system, there would still be competition. Mm-hmm. Under communism, it gets a little more ambiguous, but under market socialism, absolutely, because there'd still be a market, there'd still be currency. It's just that what you'd be competing for is some stuff we compete over today, like luxuries, but you wouldn't be competing over who gets to eat a sandwich or who gets to sleep in a bed under a roof. That would all be taken off the table. No, everyone gets that. That's all standardized. And now if you want to go out and work to live a fancier life, cool. And people absolutely will, sorry.
No, you're okay. And I think to call that competition might be like linguistically or rhetorically ineffective, just because the connotation of competition reads to all of us like this sort of cutthroat capitalist idea of competition economically.
Yeah.
I don't think it would present itself as competition. I think it would present itself as access to more luxury,
Right.
which would be available to anyone.
Well, but I think it still would be competition in the sense of like, people would still want to show off.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know, like even if all your stuff covered, it's like under market socialism, you could still want to go out and like work another job and then like buy a sports car or something, and,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And though I
You'll
would
still have those men with the big peepees.
right, you still have people, yeah, or like I want to have a really sparkly thing on my finger or my neck.
But it wouldn't be so infuriating that someone had a sparkly thing on their neck if I was able to eat.
Well, yeah, if everyone
Or
was
if
able to
people
eat,
of color had better lives,
and if the only way you could get a sparkly thing around your neck was to work.
yeah, not to happen to be lucky.
Not to be born into access to capital and then leverage that capital via investment to make passive income.
Right.
That's the thing right now under capitalism, the people with the most money work the least. Mm-hmm. Like there's no way to be richer than a person born rich using their money to make more money.
And just to be clear, I don't believe delegation of work and signing of papers to mean the same thing as work.
No, I mean, I do think some forms of management are absolutely work and necessary. For organizing certain endeavors, but you don't need shareholders. Being a shareholder is not work. No. At all. Picking which stocks to buy, picking which companies to invest in. This is not work. This is gambling. Mm-hmm. That's a game. That's a fun game where you gamble, where you bet on stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing about again, going back to the definition of capital, people who have capital, they're like, this is often brought up of like, the richest people, well, they took the risks. If you have capital, it's not risky.
And also, I'm sorry, but if you have money to risk,
right.
I don't care.
Right. Well, that's the thing, though. It's not.
If you have the money in the first, I know it's not risky, but if you have the money in the first place, even if you're betting all your money, I don't give a shit.
If you have the money to spare, it's not a risk. You're risking a number on a piece of paper of like how much is in the bank account. It's not the same as risking your housing or risking the ability to eat,
right?
Or take care of your kids. The world that wealthy people live in is like a game world. It's all a game to them. They can invest $1 million in some company, and then if it fails, it's like, oh well, I still have a huge trust fund. Like, who cares? And I still have all my other stuff. And that's the thing, is like, we are now at a point with our systems and our world where for if you're a very wealthy person, there are many super safe investments you can do. There are a number of like firms that will invest your money in super steady stocks, like stocks that just go up. They don't go up fast, but they go up steadily and consistently, dependably over time. And, or landlording is another one. If you have a bunch of money, buy up a bunch of buildings. Like, there are all these ways that rich people can use their money to just buy more money, quite literally, and, a wealthy landlord doesn't even have to manage the property. They hire a manager, they hire all these people to take care of everything. And all they're doing is owning stuff, which is not labor. It's not work. It's not an actual contribution. It's just privilege that is allowed to a tiny fraction of the species. And I'd say too, just like overall, even though we speak up for socialism in specific, in these specific systems and policy prescriptions, our guiding philosophical principle is humanism, is valuing our fellow human beings and pursuing goals that we think will create greater freedom, liberty, and equity, and health in the world.
Yeah, I agree. So we're gonna watch a couple of videos.
Is there anything else you want to?
No, you were pretty clear. Yeah, I think it's important for us to cover all the bases. Every time we have a new group of people here, I think it's important that we make very clear what it is that we believe in, and what it is that we are thinking or where we're coming from when we make assertions during either debates or while we're watching other videos.
Assertions. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, understood.
But yeah, it's important that we make clear what we think. And yeah.
And the thing is, when you use like political language and words like socialism and capitalism, you know, like we've had some friends and family make the point of like, oh, like that can, you know, like people have reactions to those words, their stigmas, etc. And first of all, we like to be clear. We think one of the biggest issues in the world today is a lot of people do not know what a lot of words mean. So we don't want to betray dictionary definitions because like someone gets triggered by a word. And at the same time, we are very much like, we think it's good to be wary of the danger of like, how do I put this? Like, not things becoming too political, but that like.
Thanks for the follow,
Thanks
J
for the follow,
Jams.
JJams92. J Jams92. Welcome. That while we promote this stuff, when we imagine an idyllic future in our minds, we don't imagine like everyone in the world walking around thinking like, I am a socialist and we are all socialists now.
Right.
And now Earth is socialist. Like,
Right.
an ideal future is one where we get beyond all this and we just understand each other as human beings. We're just connected and communicative and everything works itself out, because if we were really connected and communicating with each other clearly and hearing each other clearly, I don't think there'd be any social problems at all. I think all social problems grow out of a failure of communication.
I also think this. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's just it's important that people know what words mean, and it's specifically important that everyone has the same definition of what words mean when we talk to each other.
Yeah.
So when we say things like we're market socialists, it's important for us to explain to all of you guys at least what we mean by that, so that when we do eventually talk to scary people, scary idiots, at least
Sad idiots.
Scared of
scary.
themselves, scary to themselves,
Yeah.
they will have a better understanding of, or our chat will have a better understanding of what we're getting at. So it's easy for us to just continue talking.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing is, like, I think for me, and you tell me what you think, Zoe, but I feel like it's far more genuine for me to say I am a humanist who believes that the best next stepping stone for human society is market socialism from an economic systemic perspective.
Yes.
You know, like, I don't tend to think of myself like I am a market socialist.
Right.
No, I'm Casey.
Not Casey, market socialist.
No. I'm Casey.
Casey MS.
I'm a fart bag who shoots farts out of his ass. That's who I am. And I believe in market socialism as an economic system that will create greater equity and freedom and understanding in the world.
Got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, I'm Zoe, attention whore. Attention whore dummy. Academic dummy.
There you go.
Academy, who also believes that market socialism is a great next step in a better society that is more equitable for all people. So
What is this video?
This video is about market
From
socialism.
who?
From Social Capital.
Yeah, it's
because
it's
ownership matters.
A little
little thing.
infographic.
Yeah.
check
Which
it
I think, let's keep it PragerU for the kids.
Yeah.
Oh,
Play
I'm
it.
not a dummy, I'm a yummy. Thanks.
Thank you, Fox.
Thanks,
Thank
Fox.
you. I agree, Fox. Good.
Oh, good.
Monitored Banner Vader.
Oh, good.
All right, well, moving on.
I just want to read it. That's very funny. Anyways, so here we go.
Yeah, another.
This is
Yeah.
what we mean.
This is
what
yeah.
we mean when we say scary dummies.
Well, this is no. I don't say scary. There's
When I say
nothing-
scary, I don't mean I'm scared. I mean
Okay.
like the existence, the fact that they exist is scary for society.
Yes, sure. But this is a good example of how a right winger's brain works. A lot of capital letters, a lot of laughy face emojis,
Which they're not actually laughing.
No. Anytime someone does that many laughy face emojis, you know they're very upset and triggered.
The lady doth protest too much.
Oh my gosh, yeah, this person's so triggered right now.
JJam's 92. Good, I'm glad.
Yeah, see, this
good.
is a very simple-brained person.
Oh, yes. I hope you stay and watch this video with us, because you have things to learn about being alive with other humans.
Yeah, but this person hasn't even learned how to, like, write or read.
This is
so
true. Hey,
I don't
this
know
is what we're here for.
I know.
I mean, at least try.
Yeah, it's always worth taking a swing, and I'm not super optimistic.
And Fox is here. If it gets too out of hand, just
Fox is on top of it.
Just get rid of him.
I'm not sure this person has the intellectual capacity to learn any lesson.
I have hope, but it might be.
But maybe.
We voted for Crazy Permy.
Yeah, see, they're brain dead.
That's so sad.
It's sad.
No, it's okay because they'll just go into someone else's.
Yeah, they're gonna go say stupid shit in a bunch of chats, and they're gonna get banned.
They're gonna get
and
their
then their
account
account's
taken
gonna
away.
get deleted.
Right.
It's all very predictable stuff.
We had followers only chat for a while, and we would get followers from like a bunch of these fucking weirdos.
Yeah, just a brain jackass.
And we would lose so many followers, not because people were unfollowing, but because accounts were getting deleted.
Yeah, no, right-wingers.
It's wild.
Right-wingers are so intrinsically unpleasant as people that they get their shit banned everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can see that. They've already been banned from other channels. Yeah. Well.
All right, let's check out this video.
Let's check it. Turn this up quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And for us.
Ownership matters. It gives people a say in the things they care about. Being an owner in a business, for example, gives people motivation and a stake in its success.
Yes,
but over the last
indeed.
30 years, the number of people who have control over the businesses that shape our lives has become smaller, not larger. It's no surprise that when you ask them, people say they have no influence in their workplace, over businesses, and over the economy as a whole. Cooperatives, however, offer a solution. From the outside, they may look like any other business, but inside, they are very different. They're owned and controlled together by the people closest to the business: employees, customers, residents, suppliers, not distant shareholders. They have an equal say in how the business is run, and they even decide what to do with the profits. And cooperatives work. There are nearly 7,000 independent co-ops in the UK. They're found in every sector, from high street retailers to farmer-controlled businesses, cooperative pubs and credit unions. Some of our most famous brands come from cooperatives, from champagne and parmesan to Lurpak butter and bird's eye peas. Even Barcelona Football Club is a co-op owned by its fans. Co-ops contribute £37 billion each year to the British economy and boost UK productivity, innovation and entrepreneurship. And they work for the 15 million members who together own the UK's co-ops. Cooperatives give people, in fact all of us, more control over the things that matter. What do you want to do together?
So just a little
That was
overview.
a nice little
on worker
overview.
Co-ops. Very cute.
Cute
And
animation.
obviously British, but
And yeah, and they make a good point of that, co-ops allow people to have control over their workplace, democratic control.
right.
And that makes people happier and more engaged with their work and more productive.
And generally what happens is people end up making more money.
Yes.
And not less. It's because I think there's this sort of incorrect idea that, like, in a socialist society, people would be making less money because you have to give more of your money away.
Yeah,
And
there's an
it's-
assumption of sacrifice, but the only people who would have to, quote unquote, sacrifice would be the wealthiest people on earth, would be like shareholders.
Yeah.
CEOs would make less money, which would be fine. They'd still be very rich. They just wouldn't have piles of money hoarded in offshore bank accounts doing nothing.
Right. Hi, Mark.
Hey, what's up, Mark? There's often that assumption of sacrifice, which does not have to be part of it. We promote a form of socialism where almost everyone would be much
more
richer.
money. Yeah.
And the people who would be less rich, their lifestyle wouldn't even change.
Yeah.
Because they're already so rich now.
Yes.
That you could take away the majority of their money and they'd still be so rich they'd have more money than they know what to do with. That's the thing about billionaires. It's just so much money.
It's so much money, no human, or honestly, like several generations of human will never even make a dent. Like the amount of money a person, like if they live the most luxurious life of all time, thank you, Fox. If they live the most luxurious life of all time, will still not even kind of make a dent on the amount of money that some of these billionaires have. They can pass them down through generations of their family, this capital, this wealth, and still won't make a dent on the amount of money that's had. If they liquidate all of their assets and never work another day again, never make another dollar, for generations and generations, no one will know what to do with the amount of money that these people have.
Yeah, and of course they don't they invest it. Every generation invests it more, and then they have an even larger share of the wealth, and that's entrenched wealth and generational wealth.
Yeah. So yeah, it's important to consistently make clear that, as I keep saying, that our value is not we want everyone making less money, so a certain group of people don't feel bad. It's that under a system that we're proposing, or a lot of people, market socialists are proposing, everyone would make substantially more money and have a better life.
Yeah.
Almost all of us.
99%. Well, and in my view, even these hyper wealthy people of today would have a better life. I don't think it's good for people's mental health to be insanely wealthy and live in a 100-bedroom mansion. It's just... The thing about it is, like, a human living in a massive castle and, doted on by servants, they forget their humanity. Any of us would. Yeah. We're all fallible, and we're all prone to going into our own little bubble headspace.
Right.
And so you take any human being and you put them in a giant mansion and you have people clean their toilets for them. They literally forget that their shit stinks.
No, literally. Literally forget that their shit stinks.
Like if you're an average, working class person like us, that like regularly you're going to go in the bathroom and be like, oh, my toilet's all shitted up.
Right.
My toilet's all covered with shit marks. I gotta clean up. Oh, right. Shit shoots out of me every day.
Right.
That's right. It's a little reminder.
You don't have like a golden toilet to suck the shit out of your asshole.
Yeah. I think Trump has forgotten. Guys like Trump, Elon Musk, they forgot that shit shoots out of their asses and that they're just dirty fucking animals.
I've met people who are obscenely wealthy over the course of my life. I mean, I lived on Long Island for a very long time, and Long Island is known for like old money, like slave money. There is this sort of weird cultural thing where people who are incredibly wealthy don't know how to cook, don't know how to clean.
Right.
Like, you put them in any like vacation or house where they have to do their own laundry or they have to do stuff, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't know what detergents to buy. They don't know what to get at a grocery store.
Yeah.
They are not self-sufficient human beings. They become infantilized by their own wealth.
Absolutely. And J-Jams, yes, totally. Yeah, it's depressing to live in the isolation of wealth.
Yeah. And I don't think any human should infantilize themselves, because once you become so infantilized by the amount of wealth you have, while you have time to ponder and think about humanity, your brain is so fucked from being so rich and having everything done for you that it doesn't even go there. It doesn't even go to art. Totally. It doesn't even go to science. It doesn't go to any of that because you're so busy being like, it's just like, that's what I think rich people's brains sound like.
Yeah.
And when I say rich, let's be clear. I'm not talking about a millionaire or even a multimillionaire with a few $1 million. I'm talking about billionaires. I'm talking about obscenely wealthy people who have old wealth in their family, who have been rich their entire lives.
And people or even people who didn't have as much old wealth but came from an affluent background.
Right.
There's a lot of billionaires today who don't come from the big old money families, but they still came from affluent backgrounds. And they also, in their backgrounds, their story is that their parents gave them money to do their business.
Yeah.
Whether it's Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they all got money from their family.
I just assume there's like a little like dribble of spit coming out of old people's mouths at all times. I mean, old people's, not rich people's mouths at all times. Sorry, old people.
Well, yeah, and like one of the
Freudian
issues,
slip.
you know, a lot of pro-capitalist folks will be like, oh, you know, if you want more, if you're, you know, living under capitalism today and you want more, you should just go out and start your own business or
Right.
go be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. And obviously, you know, lawyer, doctor, they're expensive barriers to entry in terms of university education and whatnot. And in terms of starting businesses, the fact is that under capitalism, we will never be able to have everyone be an owner of a business. It's impossible. Under capitalism, there must be an impoverished underclass to work as laborers. So intrinsically, there can only be a minority of owners because you're always, for your average small business, you're going to need at least a few employees. So there's one owner, 3-4 employees. There you go. It's like best case scenario, maybe 20% of the population could be owners under capitalism. Maybe. Even that is probably a little too optimistic. But the cool thing about market socialism and worker co-ops is that then everyone is an owner. Everyone has democratic control, and not everyone would be paid exactly the same. That was something that I wish I had been a little more explicit about with when we had a discussion with the Canadian guy who sounded like Jordan Peterson.
Right, Jordan Peterson undercover.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson undercover.
I'm convinced.
Because he was, you know, asking a bunch of questions about co-ops and you know, gish galloping and being generally difficult. And I felt like I kind of, you know, I was afraid I made it sound like the way a worker co-op works is that, like, if you're, you know, doing a thing independently, some project, and then, you know, like what was his example? A still.
Yeah,
if you're like doing, you know, a little distillery making whatever alcohol in your
Moonshine or
backyard,
some shit,
moonshine,
yeah.
let's say, just for sake of discussion. That, like, if you were this one guy making moonshine, and then you wanted to expand your moonshine business, and you hired 2 more guys, that, like, now you're all equal partners. No, that's not what a worker co-op is. It's not that you'd all suddenly be equal partners in the company, or have be entitled to equal shares of what that company makes. It's that everyone would have a say. It's that those 3 guys would have to talk it out of, like, okay, what is fair? Okay, you started this distillery, you built the still, you set it up. It's clearly it is fair that you would get the majority. And also, how can we do this in a way where we can also get a living wage?
Right, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
all payment should be fair for those working. And it's very easy to it's when we were in school, I can only speak for myself. When I was in school, we were taught that socialism and communism were essentially interchangeable terms. Both
Yeah.
of them, but the only difference was that socialism meant everybody had exactly equal everything, and communism meant everybody had exactly equal everything, but there was one dictator. That's literally what I was taught in
Yeah.
high school, in
Yeah.
AP government in high school.
AP, yeah.
AP government in high school. Socialism is everybody has equal everything. Everybody gives all their money back to taxes so that they all have the equal shit.
Yeah.
And then communism is exactly the same thing, except you're in tattooing and there's a dictator.
Yeah, and perhaps
So that's literally all it is.
And it might be in American terms. So for anyone who doesn't know, AP in the U.S. in like high schools means advanced placement. So it's basically college level courses in high school.
Yeah.
So yeah, no,
Because I'm a academic dummy.
no, there's lots of like lackluster history classes in American high schools, unfortunately. But yeah, so again, like that's the cool thing about one of the cool things about market socialism is it allows for a system where everyone can be an owner, where everyone is in the owner class. Now that doesn't mean that it would not guarantee equality of outcome, which is not something that generally I think most socialists and communists are going for. I mean, Marx certainly did not. He was very much about equality of opportunity. Equality of access. But yeah, so there would still be competition. There would still be.
It's not scary, y'all.
Yeah,
Socialism isn't scary.
But there would be the option that if someone was of the inclination, the attitude that they did not want to spend their entire life competing, fighting for more, they could. That option would be available to those people. To, be chill or to, work a couple days a week helping out somewhere and spend most of their time in the park reading books. And there's no shortage of people who just, I mean, as I've said many times before, I think that there are enough people in the world and enough different kinds of people that every job that needs to get done would be easily filled.
Yeah.
One of the issues right now under capitalism is that we have tons of useless jobs. We have tons of middlemen in corporate structures. Or as I've often said, brought up, why do we manufacture bad cheese? It's like, it's something I wonder. I'm like, I think in a healthy society, in a copacetic world, we would not make any bad cheese.
Okay,
why?
But American cheese, when it's good.
But American cheese, I wouldn't.
So good.
American cheese, I wouldn't file under bad cheese.
Okay, good.
Because first of all, it's milk based.
Good.
Still, the good American.
You're talking about like easy cheese. And
yeah, I'm
shit.
talking about Velveeta.
Yeah,
I'm talking about that shit where like it comes in like a Mylar wrapped. And like baggy, and it's just like it's like cheese Play-Doh,
like Lunchables cheese.
Yeah. Because like Kraft singles, they actually put milk in them. Like that's real cheese.
Land O'Lakes American cheese, fuck me up.
Yeah, Velveeta is pure oil, I believe.
Yeah.
Congealed into a cheese-like form. But yeah, I think in a healthy world there would not be any shitty cheese manufactured. Because why? Just make good cheese. Because the funny thing too is like. I believe also in many cases, like, it's such an ancient practice, cheese, and how to make cheese, and like nuns and ancient nunneries do it. It seems silly that we've built all these complex machines and industrial systems to just mass produce bad cheese.
Yes.
So if you weren't doing that, things would be more efficient.
Yeah.
So what'd you bring up now?
I found a Ben Shapiro capitalism versus socialism
I've seen a little
debate.
bit of this.
Have you
we
seen
can
this?
watch a clip of this. Yeah,
I kind of just want to make fun of someone.
I don't agree with Anna Kasparian on everything, but she did a good job in this debate, as I recall.
And I'm down to criticize both.
Oh sure, yeah.
But Ben Shapiro's gonna only say.
Well, Ben Shapiro
shit.
has no redeeming qualities as a speaker, as a thinker, or as a human being.
Oh, this girl.
He's just awful.
I think this woman is so fucking sexy.
She's
I
cute.
don't always agree with everything she says either, but I think she is like so hot.
Well, then enjoy, Zoe.
Oh, I'm gonna
Enjoy.
love this.
Look at
Okay,
this
here we go.
Tricep, she lifts.
Oh, she's so cute.
It's a very popular sentiment. It's also now a fashion statement, I guess, which we've all seen. So when President Biden looks into the microphone and says,
And this is, as I recall, also this is an unfriendly audience. This is like,
Oh, this is a Republican audience?
yeah.
Oh, boy.
I forget exactly where this went down.
Boo.
I think it was a libertarian conference. I'm not sure.
Ew.
Pay your fair
That's
share.
like,
What does that mean?
That's like, it's not worse, like, existentially, but, like, it feels worse because, like, just admit you're a Republican.
Well, the thing about libertarianism, if you want to get technical about it, is that there's a distinction between right-wing libertarianism and left-wing libertarianism.
True.
In many ways, we are left-wing libertarians in terms of our value system.
Anti-corporate,
and what we believe.
left-wing.
Yeah.
Or anti-establishment.
Well, libertarian, the most traditional, like, liberty. First and foremost, and really the left and right libertarian divide kind of comes down to like positive freedoms and negative freedoms. it's like the pandemic debates, the idea of like the freedom to not wear a mask versus the freedom to live in a nation where half of people aren't petri dishes making a virus stronger that could then come and kill you. It's like which side of that freedom coin do you value? That's really the distinction between a left-wing libertarian would say wear a fucking mask for the greater good, and a right-wing libertarian would say my right to put whatever I want on my face or not trumps everything. So I think
you learn something new every day. I didn't know this was a distinction to be made.
Yeah, a good little way to frame it, I think.
All right, here we go.
Why don't we go back to here's question?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
She's so sexy.
Okay, here we go.
Tax the rich is a very popular sentiment. It's also now a fashion statement, I guess, which we've all seen. So when President Biden looks into the microphone and says, "Pay your fair share," what does that mean?
It means that if you're one of the 55 corporations that literally paid absolutely nothing in federal income taxes in 2020, and in fact received $3.5 billion in tax refunds or rebates, or tax refunds, I should say, maybe you should pay your fair share. But here's the thing, if the tax code is written in a way where corporations can legally take advantage of loopholes and incredibly low effective corporate tax rates, they're gonna do it, right? So it's one thing to say pay your fair share, it's another thing to actually write a tax code that is a little more equitable and ensures that everyone is in fact paying their fair share.
Ben, what's pay your fair share mean?
I mean, the obvious answer would be a flat tax, but the longer answer is that the United States has one of the...
That's so stupid.
So
the obvious answer.
The obvious answer is a flat tax.
A flat tax, and that's right-wing libertarian shit. Obviously, we don't agree. Progressive tax code is very ethically defensible and sound. I think it should be even more progressive, but. Yes, because especially, if you're going to keep capitalism in place, then anyone who's making levels of money like $100 million, $500 million, $1 billion, they are inevitably not just exploiting tons of labor, but also exploiting tons of public resources. They're using roads. They're wearing down the roads with their delivery trucks, moving their product around. There's all kinds of things they're using in the public sector, and so they should pay more. Not to mention the fact that the wealthier they get, the more there's just nothing to do with that money. Like they've done studies that I believe in America, and this is I think this is 10 years ago, so it's probably gone up, but that basically that if they track human happiness and income, that they go up together. The more money you make, the happier you are, until around $750,000 a year.
Oh, I thought it was 4. Okay, 750.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was for what?
100,000.
Oh yeah, no, I think it was 750.
Yeah.
If I recall correctly.
Let me see.
Yeah, check it out. See what it is. There might be a newer study with newer numbers. Yeah, they're basically, and essentially to say that there comes a certain point where the amount of money in your bank account no longer impacts your quality of life. Once you have enough money that you can live in a place you love and you can, go have whatever you want for breakfast, whatever you want for lunch, whatever you want for dinner, go do whatever activity you want at night, go see any show, go to any club, buy as many drinks as you want, et cetera, et cetera. There comes a point where it's just the money, you have more than enough to live a very luxurious lifestyle, and there's just nothing else to do with that money except maybe donate it or be philanthropic, which us, from a humane perspective, you'd think that would be obvious and that's what people would do. But because of the corrupting nature of wealth, especially if someone's born into wealth and they have no frame of reference for poverty or just how rich they are, they hoard the money, unfortunately.
Right.
And then it becomes like guys like Elon and Jeff Bezos, where it's just a contest to see who can have a bigger number on their bank statement. But you could take away 90% of Jeff Bezos' money, of Elon Musk's money, and their lives would not change. Their day-to-day lifestyle would not change. All that would change is the number written on their bank statement.
And
That's
like,
it.
I know the big thing with, I can't find like a good chart. I know the big thing with people like Musk and Bezos is that most of their wealth isn't liquid. And that's a huge right-wing talking point where they're like, well, it's not like they have $550 billion in their bank account. It's in stocks. It's in Amazon. It's in It's in Tesla. And it's like, okay, but that is still wealth that is owned by them. They have the ability to liquidate these assets.
Absolutely.
At any point.
And just have the cash.
Will they? No, not necessarily. But you know, you cannot discredit the wealth that is not in their hands, in their pockets, as not being their wealth.
Especially if you're gonna turn around and put them on a magazine cover and write "the world's richest man."
It's their wealth.
You can't call them the richest people on earth and then be like, but the money they have isn't real. It's not liquid. Like, come the fuck on. Anywho's.
What the fuck else does Ben Shapiro have to say?
Most progressive income tax systems on planet Earth, most of the systems in, for example, Northern Europe are far less progressive. The top tax rate kicks in a lot lower on the income scale because you have to pay for the large-scale social services. The people who are at the top of the income bracket in the United States, the top quintile essentially pays all net taxes in the United States. Not some, not most, all. And the reason for that is because there are tax transfers, and the transfer of payments that are inherent in public services do not accrue to the people at the top of the tax bracket. They accrue to everybody else who's receiving that sort of funding. When we talk about,
and also, do you feel like Ben is trying to like actually teach you something right now? Like, does Ben sound to you like he wants to be understood?
No, he's talking fast so that people don't catch what he's saying.
Yeah.
It's a manipulative tactic that a lot of people, like abusers in relationships, do it too.
Yeah.
If someone is talking to you very, very quickly and you can't understand them, it's usually because they're either A, lying to you, or B, manipulating you.
Yeah, he's just memorized a list of cherry-picked shit to make his stuff sound good. And the thing too about like I believe that it is true that the majority of taxes in the U.S. are paid by the upper class, and my response to that is good. Yes, good. It should be.
It should be.
With the current the way that income disparity has played out, the depression of wages, how little money people are making. Like, I really don't think. I think someone making under 75K, under 100 grand a year, they shouldn't be taxed at all. Quite frankly, like if we're speaking ethically, I think you could just tax all the billionaires at 90%, which it used to be in the U.S.
In the tax brackets, yes.
In like the turn of the century, like there was a time when the wealthy were taxed 90%, above a certain amount, a progressive tax system. But yeah, that if they made anything above the base amount, that they got taxed 90%.
I'm gonna take out
and they were fine.
Whiteboard.
They were still rich.
I'm gonna take out the whiteboard really quick
Cool.
and explain how tax brackets work.
Well, and I also want Anna Kasparian, I think, is gonna take Ben down too.
Great. Well, we're gonna hear it.
Yeah,
I just want to really quick show you how tax brackets work.
Yeah.
So let's say it's like pockets of money. So let's say you have. Certain...
three-dimensional pockets.
Oh, I know. I'm a real artiste, let me tell
Amazing.
you. Okay. So let's say these are the people that make 0 to, let's say, 35K. This is 35 to 75. And 75 to 150. These are obviously not necessarily the correct numbers, but just to give you an idea. I like, say, 150 to 400. And then 400 plus. So
Thanks for following,
thank you for the follow.
Kobe Davos. Welcome.
So every tax bracket is taxed at a different amount. So say you're making 0 to 35,000, let's say you get taxed at 10%. So all of the income that you have that is between 0 and 35,000 is taxed at 10%. Anything above 35,000 is taxed at, let's say, 15%. This goes up to 17%. This is, 25%. And then let's say anything over 400,000
50%
would be 50%, exactly, which is basically that thing that Joe Biden was saying he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so that means every dollar you make that isn't in the above 400,000 is not getting taxed at 50%. And I think this is an essential misunderstanding that people have about progressive tax and tax brackets. every dollar you're making is getting taxed differently depending on where on the scale that dollar lies.
Yeah.
And it's really important that we understand these are different pockets of income. So people that are making $35,000 are only getting their wealth taxed 10%, not 50%.
Yeah.
And a person who's making over $400,000, their entire $400,000 is not getting taxed at 50%. It's every dollar over $400,000. So say they're making $500,000, their 0 to 35 is 10, their 35 to 75 is 15, etc., etc., and everything over $400,000, the $401,000, that one extra dollar will get taxed at 50 cents.
Yeah.
It's incredibly important that people understand this. So you're not losing 50% of your wealth.
No, a lot of Americans, I've heard them. They think that if your tax rate, if you go up into a higher tax bracket, that means your entire income is now taxed at a higher percentage.
Which is false.
It's just not true. And then another, more like kind of colloquial way it's said is like people will be like, oh, they punish you for earning more. And it's like, no. That's not how it works. You get taxed the exact same on those, that first $400,000 as anyone else making less, and it's only above that, like Zoe said.
Right. And
that you start getting taxed at the higher rate.
Isn't negative income tax way more efficient? Is the question.
Negative income tax.
Let me see.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by negative income tax.
Yes, leave. In economics, a negative income tax is a system which reverses the direction in which tax is paid for incomes below a certain level. In other words, earners above that pay level pay money to the state, while earners below it receive money, as shown by the blue arrows.
So you're saying a system where people who make less would actually receive a payment from the government.
I don't hate that.
No,
I don't hate that at all.
I want to hear what Anna Kasparian says in response.
Yeah, no,
to
I
that.
do too.
But that was great. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, of course. I just wanted to make sure we were clear.
Always a good thing to clarify.
And I love the whiteboard, you know me.
Oh, yeah.
Higher taxes on corporations. We do not have one of the world's lowest corporate tax rates. We are somewhere in the middle. And look at the OECD countries. We are certainly not the lowest on the totem pole in terms of our corporate tax rate. In fact, right-wing sources like the Heritage Foundation will say that it is much friendlier to do business in places like Denmark or Sweden in many cases than it is to do business in the United States.
Tax rate's pretty high in Denmark and Sweden.
It is. The personal income tax rate is very high in Denmark and Sweden. The corporate tax rate is basically near or on par with that of the United States. If we were to raise our corporate tax rate the way that President Biden is talking about, we'd actually have a higher corporate tax rate than China currently does. The notion that corporations ought to be paying tax at all, in my view, is mistaken, given the fact that the income is immediately either reinvested in the company or passed on to people who immediately pay all of that tax. By the time you actually
That's true. Most of it goes to the CEO, who mostly hoards the money.
Ben Shapiro coming in hot.
I mean, again, he's basically just preaching trickle-down economics here, which is one of the most debunked, wrong economic theories ever put forward by economists. Stupid economists.
Oh, Ben, with your lies.
Not the guy. That you want in your corner.
Wait. If you put this at, let's see, if you put it at 0.75.
Will he sound like
he
a
sounds
normal person?
It's fucking wild. He sounds
Let's
normal,
hear it,
and then you
yeah.
actually hear what he says.
Your income in this country, the income's been
He
taxed
sounds a little weird.
about 7 different ways. Right? You're getting taxed through the corporation, then it's passed on to you as salary, which is taxed. If you invest it in the
I'd
stock
rather
market
he'd be
and then you
done
sell your
quicker.
stock, that is taxed as capital gains tax. When you die, the government taxes that as well. So how many times can you tax the same dollar before people begin to disinvest?
God.
I'd like to respond
Let
to
her
that,
respond,
Okay, go ahead.
dickhead.
Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
To argue
Obviously.
that the
Gonna try
corporate
to
tax
talk
rates
over it.
in the United States are too high, or that, first off, let me just touch on the comparison you gave regarding progressive taxes in European countries versus the United States. I mean, yes, the taxes might be higher in those European countries, but what do people living in those countries get in return? They get incredible childcare. I mean, listen, the average American family, 2-income household, spends a whopping 22% of their household income on childcare alone, right? So When you're talking about European countries that offer quality childcare, that, by the way, that opens up the opportunity for people to go to work, something that we should maybe think about as we're dealing with this labor shortage. 64,000 women left the job force in April alone. Not because they want to, but because they can't afford childcare. Everything in this country is privatized. Everything has a for-profit model. And there's consequences that come along with that, including for the business community that might want, you know, a more robust social safety net program, or social safety net to ensure that people feel comfortable enough to go to work. But we don't have that here. So yes, people might pay more in taxes, including those lower on the income scale, but what they get in return is far greater than what people in this country have been getting.
The United States has spent, since the beginning of the war on poverty, some $22 trillion.
I don't think people think enough about how the things that we're paying for out of pocket being covered almost even out if you're paying a higher percentage of your tax or a higher percent tax rate. I really, like, people are like, taxation is theft. Sure, if all of your tax money is going to give police officers robot dogs, yeah, that's weird. but if what you're being taxed is actually going back into your own social services, it's not too huge of a difference to be paying more taxes, especially if people who have lower incomes are not paying as much.
The whole point, through my view, the whole point of a civilization is to manifest collective efficiency. Like, that's the whole, paying taxes is better because then we put all our resources. It's just like if you had roommates in a house, if you had like 4 roommates, it's like better if you all go to Costco together and pool your grocery money and get the 7,000 pack of toilet paper than it is to go to the local 7-Eleven and buy a 4-pack of toilet paper by yourself.
Yeah.
You know, it's about pooling resources, and that's the thing about like right-wing libertarians and like hyper pro-capitalists of like if you're advocating for just like cutthroat. You know, it's like I start to feel, I'm like, well, then I guess I should just rob a bank because apparently, like, you don't think there should be any rules. But then, of course, they go, no, not that. And it's like, okay, so basically what they want is just a government that keeps the already impoverished, disenfranchised people impoverished and disenfranchised,
right,
and keeps the already rich and powerful people rich and powerful.
Right.
Like, that's all they actually want. It's not about freedom for everyone. It's about cementing the current unequal status quo into perpetuity.
Right.
In the war on poverty, we spend an awful lot on social services in this country on a per capita level. In fact, it is very much on par with what the European countries spend. It's just not spent particularly well. When it comes to things like childcare,
there is some, I think, legitimacy to that of like there is inefficient spending, there is wasting of resources, but it's not the issue that Ben Shapiro would never say is that's not a right and left issue.
But I'm confused as to what he means by it's spent on social services, it's just not spent well. Does he mean unnecessary social services? What does that mean?
I think he probably means corruption, but it's unclear. He's not being very clear. No, he's not being clear at all. But my guess is that he's speaking to inefficient spending of like, or, you know, like how like the U.S. government pays like $500 for a hammer.
Right.
That would cost you or I $10.
Right.
You know, corruption, pork in bills.
Right, and then any sort of corruption,
extortion.
though, is not going to social services. It may, like, say it is.
Right.
But if someone's taking that money, that's not social services.
Yes, but if you say it's not being spent well, I mean, that could also kind of line up, too.
Yeah.
But the biggest issue is that the biggest issue with Ben Shapiro is that he's a fucking liar.
Yeah.
Is that he's completely disingenuous. There's video, you can watch him say with his own mouth and vocal cords that when he goes into a debate, he is not interested in creating greater understanding or you know, clarity between people. He's not interested in changing the mind of the other person, or trying to get more connected to where they're coming from. All he wants to do is make the other person look bad. He just wants to win for his right-wing sports team. That's all he cares about.
But he's not doing well.
No.
Well, I mean, maybe to his
Well,
right-wing sports
that's the
team because he's
thing.
talking fast, so he sounds smarter.
His audience is so dumb that if you just talk fast to them, they think you're smart. Because they're not actually pondering his words. They're not really listening and absorbing anything. They're just like, oh, it's my Ben Shapiro hero. really giving a walloping to that lefty.
Too gross.
That's their full analysis.
God.
Very young Elizabeth Warren, before she became Senator Elizabeth Warren, specifically wrote about universal child care, and she said that it actually was contributing to what she called the two-income trap in a book that she wrote in the early 2000s. And what she talked about is the fact that there are a lot of women who, for example, may not want to work, and what you're actually doing is incentivizing people to have to go to work because we're now providing child care, as opposed to providing a competitive advantage to, for example, families where one parent is working.
So providing childcare that is available to anyone is forcing people to work, is what he said, or incentivizing people to work. That's very strange logic to me.
I guess it is. Well, it's not really an incentive to work. I mean,
it's access to work.
Yes.
Not incentive necessary. I mean, no.
Yeah.
It doesn't. The incentive
because whether
feels like
you
the wrong
stay
word.
home or you work and get the time off from childcare, but it's weird. It's a weird.
No one's like, oh, here's childcare. You better use it and get out of the house.
Yeah.
It's not.
No,
it's not
that's
mandatory
not really a
childcare.
thing.
It's available childcare. That's a terrible point. Bad point.
I agree with you, by the way, that childcare is a very difficult issue. I also agree that this is why we used to have, for example, family structures that were conducive to allowing people to help out. There are many businesses that do provide for some form of childcare. We certainly have many businesses that provide for some form of maternity or paternity leave. The European countries, which obviously have been used as a model by a lot of folks on the left, between 1970 and 1993, they experienced exorbitantly low rates of growth, and the reason for that was because
Exorbitantly low.
It's so sad because his base is gonna be like big word, big
word,
meaning.
exorbitant. That's why it's important to know what words mean. Exorbitant, of a price or amount charged unreasonably high. Exorbitant means very high. And
It's
Ben
so
Shapiro
highly low.
just said it was exorbitantly low.
I get what he was getting
He
at.
thinks exorbitant means extreme.
Yes.
They're not synonyms.
He could say superfluously low if he wants to use a big word, or unnecessarily low.
I don't think that would be correct either.
Superfluous means too much. Look me up.
Well,
Look me up.
It means excessive, yeah. But I don't know if that would quite, in this case. Superfluous, unnecessary, especially through being more than enough.
Okay.
Like more than enough low. You know what I'm saying?
It's still better than
It is better.
exorbitant.
But
Unnecessarily
superfluous
low
means,
is fine.
like unnecessary.
Yeah.
But he's not saying unnecessary. He's not trying to say unnecessarily low. He's trying to say extremely low.
Why didn't he just say that?
Because it wouldn't sound smarty pants enough.
Right.
So he said exorbitant, even though he doesn't know what the word means.
Are you telling us you're high, Kiara? Every time I smoke weed, I'm going to say I'm super exorbitant.
I'm so exorbitant right now.
because they
420 exorbitant
burdened their social safety net systems. It created enormous social problems. It created enormous immigration problems. They had to scale a lot of those back. And
why would it create immigration problems?
It created immigration problems because a lot of people were coming specifically for the benefits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yes, that would be to my point, which is it creates more problems very often than it's.
Because he's saying more. He's saying more people will come.
It makes things nicer in a way that makes more people want to come, and I don't like more people coming.
That's what he's saying.
So it's making problems for things to be nice.
That's why she's smiling. She's you're being racist.
And this is something that really, I think, is a specific area where guys like Ben Shapiro and folks like us are just so philosophically distant from each other, because like for me all this talk about, because in Ben's world the future is all about how will America compete with all the other countries and still be the best, even though we're not. But like he thinks so. Like that's so built into his whole imagination and idea of the future and the world and how things work. It's about my team, America. How are we going to be the best team and win in the Super Bowl of Earth?
Right.
And the way we think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that we want the world to come together. And so, like, if One Nation is doing a better childcare program that's making other people immigrate there to get that support, and then perhaps in some cases that is putting high levels of strain on those social systems because people are clustering in the one area where good services are offered. The solution there is not to end the good services in that area so they stop attracting these darn immigrants. The solution is to have the same good services everywhere. That's the actual humane, I would say, ethical solution.
Yeah, but they don't.
But Ben Shapiro doesn't give a fuck
They don't
about
give a
that.
fuck about
'cause
that. They
he's
just want brown people to go away.
Right. He's a spoiled little racist, fascist baby, and he just wants America to win.
Just never made his wife come.
Yeah, but the only way for America to really win is for everyone to win.
Right.
The only way for any individual to really win is for everyone to win.
Totally.
You know, we are not. No one of us is free until we are all free.
Totally.
I mean, sure, I guess that's a.
Yes, if I put a free donut sign in my shop, people will come for the donut.
No, but if you have a robust, if you have
And do you hear that? You hear these
The
morons?
audience is like, "That's right."
You hear these
Ew.
dullards?
He doesn't have basic understanding of the concepts he's explaining.
Yeah. If a donut store says, "Hey, come get free donuts," and then they're mobbed out and it's like a chaos and there aren't enough donuts and people are getting trampled, the solution isn't for that store to stop offering donuts. The solution is more donuts.
Yes.
More places making donuts, more access to donuts. That's a solution. Not going like, "Oh, you gotta like not let everyone have donuts or charge the highest prices." Like, it's ethically bizarre to me.
Very.
Society that actually takes care of its workers, right? If you have a society that makes your life a lot easier, people are going to want to immigrate. It's part of the reason why, people wanted to come here. People are going to.
And it's funny, right wingers all the time will point to immigration numbers into the U.S. as evidence that the U.S. is awesome. All the time. They'll be like, "Look at all the people who come to the U.S. from these other countries. It's because their countries suck and the U.S. is so great." But then here, when people are immigrating to Europe for their robust social safety nets, now all of a sudden that's a sign that Europe's stupid, that they have bad policies that are attracting too many immigrants. Again, conservatives have no consistent values at all, except the divine right of kings. That's all they believe in, is that they are the in-group and that they should be at the top of the totem pole for all time.
Want to live in countries that have both economic opportunity,
vastest
but
immigration-
also
the vastest
social safety
immigration-
net programs that, again, just make your. I mean, we talk about freedom. If you look at the World Freedom Index, okay, we like to think of the United States as the freest country. We're not the freest country. You look at that list, we're like pretty low down compared to a lot of these Nordic countries. Denmark is top of that list. So look, Denmark has a mixed economy. When we have these debates about, socialism versus capitalism, I think that those debates are a little ridiculous because every country is not every country, but most countries are mixed economies.
Right. The United States
right?
is a mixed economy.
Mixed,
For sure, true.
exactly.
Yep.
Now, the issue with the United States is there used to be a time when public universities were free, right? You didn't have to dig yourself into a massive hole to get an education. There was a time in this country
They used to be
where,
cheap, even when I was going to, because I went to one semester of community college before I ran off into the wild blue yonder, and it was so cheap. It was like, I want to say it was like
$60 a credit or something.
no, like $10.
What?
$15 a credit.
Whoa.
If I recall correctly, I don't have the paperwork on hand, but like I remember it was very cheap. I think my whole semester at SMC, Santa Monica College, was like a few $100. Yeah.
Okay, because when I went to community college for just to not pay my loans. So I just kept taking classes so I could keep my loans in deferment. I took like beginning guitar and I literally play guitar. And I was just like taking stupid community college classes. Those were like $60 or $70 a credit. And I was like, oh my God, what a deal.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, no. And now I think SMC credits are like 150 a pop or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I went to, for my first 2 years when I switched majors. So I initially went to school for acting. I went to a private college. I went $40,000 in debt to go to 1 year of private college. Stupidest decision in my life. For fucking acting school, ridiculous. Why would I do that? Terrible decision, never do that.
You had to do something.
I had to do something, and I don't know. But anyways, but when I switched to philosophy, I did my first 2 years. I didn't in a year and a half, but in my first 2 years of school, in a community college, and that even was $6,000 a semester.
Yeah.
For community college, which is not cheap.
Not at all.
Not cheap at all.
No.
Anyway. and then the state school I went to was something like $13,000, $14,000 a year.
Yeah.
There was universal child care. That was cut down to the point where it's like no longer in existence unless you're desperate and have like no money and need to take advantage of some programs that are available in some states. But my point is, like, we have an issue here where on one hand, you know, we're experiencing a labor shortage. We want people to go back to work. On the other hand, people literally can't afford the childcare necessary in order to put their kids in a daycare, put their kids in childcare, and be able to go to work.
And the thing too is, like, as much as I'm absolutely, obviously, a supporter of businesses providing childcare support and you know, time off to give birth and afterwards and all that stuff. There's also part of me that has a reaction to this of like God, I wish, you know, people could just be paid properly.
Right.
You know, like it's. All these things, that, like, childcare, health insurance, all these things, it's like, it just all feels so inefficient to me as a system that you have to, like, put policy in place to force an employer to compensate their employee for the services they need, which they can't afford because their salary's not high enough, which they get from the employer who's being forced to supplement. It's like, just pay people what their labor's worth.
It's ridiculous, but also, like, it's an interesting thing with the decommodification of basic needs,
yes,
and fair wages put together.
Yes. Yeah, that obviously would be the most optimal, and that would be like the market socialist solution. Would be like when you wanted to have a kid and take care of them, you could just say like, okay, I'm gonna leave work for as long as I want.
Delta One. Read the title and then you can tell me what it says.
There you go. Without their entire paycheck. The
Biden bill removes many work requirements for many of the payments that are being made to people, and it's incentivizing people not to go back to work, which is why we have 10 million open jobs in the United States and people not coming back to work.
That is not what that bill does. In fact, that's not what that
bill.
Are you talking about the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill?
I'm talking about the $3.5 trillion bill.
The $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill offers universal pre-K, which opens up the opportunity for mothers to go to work if they want to go to work. The $3.5 trillion bill, by the way, has all sorts of subsidies for corporations, which I don't really understand why the business community isn't salivating over that, because rather than just going full force with public programs, which I think would be the right way to go, it's offering all sorts of subsidies in these, you know, public-private partnerships. Now, the physical infrastructure bill has a lot more corporate giveaways, which is why the, you know, business community absolutely loves it, offers the chance to privatize public infrastructure, which is why the business community absolutely loves it. But at the end of the day, if we don't create a society where Americans can actually have families and go to work, then we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
So to go back to your immigration point, you made a mention a moment ago of people immigrating to the country for the benefits. That's just abjectly untrue. The fact is that the United States' great immigration growth throughout the beginning of the Republic, all the way up through about 1930, was entirely driven by people who were leaving places that in many cases had broader benefits, places like Germany, to come to the United States where there was no social safety net. The fact is that the vast majority of people who used to leave and come to the United States were coming specifically to build a life knowing that they really didn't have a lot of social safety net. Now, that's not enough.
Well, and that was a lot of also because it was a new frontier. It was, I mean, obviously
Right.
it wasn't really a new frontier. It was a place where people were already living, that, you know, the colonizers of the time from Europe massacred. But yeah, to compare like people coming to like post-revolutionary America because like there was a gold rush and like there was land to be had. You know, like you could like go and like squat on land and then like call it yours. Like, no, there weren't robust social safety nets, but there was a radical level of opportunity, you know, risk as well, right, in there with it. But to compare that to like the 1930s or even the modern day is, I don't know, it's
absurd.
It's reductive. It's reductive. He's leaving a lot of stuff out.
An argument that there shouldn't be some state and local possibility for social safety net, but the notion that the way that you build a successful country that is a world power and is capable of not only making sure that its citizens are taken care of, but essentially making sure that the entire Western world is taken care of, which we did throughout the Cold War, the idea that you do that simply by raising the number of social security payments that you're making to people or benefit payments that you're making to people, this is the way that you build that sort of economy, is just non-borne out by empirical
Okay, we've
fact.
had a real far-ranging conversation.
Wild. Ben Shapiro's a fucking idiot and he keeps lying.
He's quite a dumb asshole.
He just, like I said, he just doesn't have basic understanding of the concepts that he's discussing.
And he doesn't care.
Of course he
Again,
doesn't.
You know, he's just, for him, the right wing is his sports team, and he just wants them to win.